Good morning. We are live on the Falcons Podcast. It is Wednesday morning. It is Saints week. My name is Scott Kennedy. I'm in Atlanta. This guy over here, that's Nick Kendall. He is in Seattle. So we go coast to coast with your football coverage on this. Nick, how are you doing this morning on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
I am doing pretty well. We had our first birthing and delivery class yesterday, and that was pretty good, I guess. I mean, it was 3 hours, and we have another one on Tuesday, but that was fine. They simulated the breathing exercises and whatnot, and to simulate labor, they had us hold ice in both hands, just the sensation of pain. Obviously not the same, but I guess thanks to my dad, I don't know if he's probably watching now, but we used to always hop in the mountain streams in Colorado where it would be 33 degrees or whatever. So I'm just sitting there nothing because I'm used to the cold plunge sensation. Everybody else is after 3 minutes, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." I just kind of go blank when that happens. So
yeah, I go to my happy place. Are you guys trying to go all natural? Does it sound like?
No.
Okay,
I mean,
okay. Because my wife would say, "Why would anybody do that?"
Yeah, I mean, not to go too far in our birth plan. We're still 2 months out, right? Today's 31 weeks. But yeah, no, whatever Natalie wants is fine. I think we're teetering on the epidural, but that's one that whatever she wants, God bless her. I'm here to support. I'm not the one. I'm a teammate, but I'm not the one going through it.
Yeah, no. God bless women. That's for freaking sure. And on that note, coming in hot this morning, we go live because we like having an interaction with our fans. That's why we go live on Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings, and Friday mornings. Not this Friday, though. We're taking Friday off. But Michael Ranquillo coming in from Arizona, getting up early with us. This is a Broncos fan that just supports the effort that Nick and I do on Mile High Huddle that we do here. And Mike, it's amazing. It's coming in with a $50 super chat. Keeps the lights on. I've got big old lights here. You can usually see them shining out of my forehead. So it keeps my forehead nice and shiny. It means a lot to us. It helps us do more of these type shows. It encourages us to do more of these type shows. And the numbers that we're getting on VOD, on podcasts, everything on live watches keeps growing, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate what you do for us, Michael. So thank you so much.
Yeah, God bless you, Michael. We really do appreciate coming in and getting the ball rolling. I know that you were always a big-time contributor on the shows for the Broncos stuff, and we get a lot of contributions on that. But the fact that you're supporting us on this Falcons one as well, I mean, really getting it going. Hopefully, we can start to open the floodgates there on the Falcons contributions. But regardless, we're here. We're having fun. We're talking ball.
Yeah, breaking the ice for us. John Harrell comes in, one of the big supporters of the show. He's here as well. Good morning. Good morning, Scott, Nick, and Falcons family. Beat the Saints. Before I say the lows, I like to get this out of the way quick. The things that we want to talk about today. So, hey, do I want to listen to this show or not? I want to hit on Shaq Leonard just for a moment. I want to hit on Justin Fields. I know, Nick, you've been really watching Justin Fields here. Oh my God, this is becoming a thing here, the way he's starting to play. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll get into the New Orleans Saints. Not just the game, the matchups, the state of the teams, but almost the state of the teams, win or lose. How long would this win satiate you, so to speak, if it were to happen? Would you feel any different, or is this just, a waiting? We'll get into all those things. Want to say hello to Pamela Johnson. Pamela says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Rivalry weekend. Go Falcons. Pamela, it's great to see you this morning. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Brian Dunn, he's over on YouTube. Good morning, Nick and Scott. And he's already saying hello to Michael. He said he's coming in huge. Good morning, Michael. And yes, Michael's coming in hot with the $50 super chat. So thank you so much. And just a reminder, this is a really good community about making sure to hit those likes and those shares. When I go back and check Facebook comments and stuff, I see all the shares that you guys are doing, all the likes. We get, a lot of likes on our YouTube stream. Certainly appreciate it. It certainly helps. So nice reminder from Brian. Atlanta Dog 88. It bothers me, Nick, that up in Seattle, the Huskies call themselves the Dogs. That's a Southern thing. It is totally a Southern thing. It's DAWG because that's how we talk. TAWK down here. Dogs. Washington Huskies, God bless you. You can do your own thing, but you're not the Dogs. The Dogs are in Georgia.
I won't fight you one bit on that. Maybe they'll meet in the playoffs and, Huskies get beat out.
I'm not a Georgia fan. I went to Auburn.
I know.
I will fight for the Dogs.
On that one, for sure. no horse in this fight. I will say I have not been to both stadiums, but and I know that, Between the Hedges, pretty incredible down there in Athens. I've heard Athens is one of the best college cities in the country. But it'd be pretty hard to beat out the sailgating that you have going on at the Washington Stadium with a view of Rainier in the
Yeah,
background. And
Washington's awesome. Like I said, this isn't against anything Washington
yeah,
Huskies. Love them.
yeah,
The mascot's cool. The
mhm,
the locale is cool. And they had some tough times, and they were really good when I was growing up. In the '80s and early '90s, they were really good. All the respect in the world, but dog, that's Southern, man.
it's
Just like
different.
when you say USC, there's only one USC. Don't bring that to me with South Carolina. You're South
Yeah,
Carolina. There's
there's
one
Scar.
USC in college football, and they're out just a little bit under that Washington team down in Southern California. So,
Big Ten country.
yeah, Big Ten country. That's right. Big Ten country is all country now. Raymond Collins, good morning, fellas. Happy Thanksgiving to you. To you as well, Raymond. Keith Robbins, he is here. Look at he's with the Michigan. Speaking of Big Ten country, he's got a new screen profile shot here. The Michigan Cheetahs. That's actually pretty funny. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you
Yeah,
laugh at?
I can't wait for that game, man.
I know. We're not going to get any dog complaints from Dominic Jaramillo. He says, "Good morning, Scott and Nick. Falcons Nation, Dog Nation. Dogs got Washington. Speaking of Washington, for the playoffs going to be a good one. Is that set? How can that be set?
No. We still got a week of regular season and a week of the conference championships. But
that won't be set.
college football playoffs came out yesterday, and they had Washington jump Florida State because Florida State's quarterback got seriously injured. Now Florida State's undefeated, so if they continue to be undefeated, they probably have to be in.
Yeah.
But they might be a sacrificial lamb, which again, it's really too bad the 12-team playoff came a year late, because this is typically, you don't have a year where there's like 8 teams that are pretty deserving for that 3-4 spot. So we'll see what happens. I'm honestly, no offense to Florida State, but because of the Jordan Travis injury, I hope they lose, because I don't want them in the playoffs. I was all for it before he got hurt, but we'll see what happens now.
So yeah, it would be there's some good teams in there. This should be a compelling college football playoff this year. Nando Barrington coming in on Facebook. Good morning, Scott and Nick. Good morning to you. Ryan is calling you out here. He's saying, "Oh, sure, when the Broncos are winning now, Nick is all happy and glad." I haven't really noticed that big a difference. Nick's a pretty cheerful dude. If you watch him at night after a full day of caffeine, it's like Nick times 2. So I can tell if I'm watching a morning show at 6 a.m. for Nick. Thank God he gets up with us, or I need a workout buddy. I can't do this. I won't do this on my own. So Nick is a big reason why we have this show. At night, when he comes in and he's just talking a mile a minute, that's a full day of caffeine on the evening shows.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got other things going on in the world too that have me pretty excited and cheerful as well. And yeah, so I mean, the Broncos winning definitely makes those shows a little more enjoyable, because it's not like the same. Russell Wilson's done. What does it look like moving on from the contract? Blah 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 blah. But I guess I appreciate that I'm bringing better vibes, or perceived better vibes now. So appreciate
Brad
that.
Clark says, "Good day, everyone. I'm ready for a big win this week. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving tomorrow." Thank you, Brad. Dave's given props to Michael as well. Good morning, Dave. How you doing? The beam. Sorry. That's my stigmatism. Everything kind of looks like this to me, y'all. It has a shadow behind it, so the ends kind of look like M's to me. I don't have my glasses on. If Atlanta continues in this bad direction, do you see them going for broke for a new quarterback? I think it's a pretty good class. Let's stop with the hellos for just a moment, and let's get into this a little bit, because you said one of the things we were going to talk about was Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the type of quarterback you would want to start building a team around. However, the Chicago Bears are going to have the option to reset a contract, possibly be on a rookie deal, and a guy who is probably coming out a better prospect than Justin Fields was when he was coming out. I would have had Trevor Lawrence one. I would have had, with the number 2 pick at the time, now I probably would have gone Micah Parsons. But the number 2 pick at the time, I would have taken Justin Fields. And that's where I've said it 100 zillion times. So this isn't revisionist history. I would have gone Justin Fields number 2. However, at this same time, there'd be a real debate on who would be number one overall. I'd probably still go Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Drake May, in those orders, 1, 2, 3, and Justin Fields would be behind there. And you got a chance to reset. The way Justin Fields is playing right now, that also gives the Chicago Bears the opportunity to trade him for a first and change. When we started talking about this around week 4, we were talking about, Justin Fields is worth a first-round pick. Now it might be a first-rounder and more. And then you can maybe, get Caleb Williams and, Marvin Harrison Jr. or something along those lines. But we'll see. Should the Falcons be willing to trade significant draft picks, high draft picks, multiple, if the Bears decide, no, we're going to go with Justin Fields and we're going to swing for the fences on this number one pick, I want 3 first rounders and change to go number 1 overall. Should the Falcons look into doing one of those 2 things?
They should be looking at all the avenues to add a quarterback right now. Luckily, we still have 7 games left, maybe more, to see what Desmond Ridder has, and he kind of can determine his own fate here still down the stretch, although the opening sample size is not something that you should bank on completely, but he's definitely still has a chance, to keep him out of it. I don't know if I'd give a first-round pickup for Justin Fields right now, Scott. And the big thing is because the years of cost control have pretty much, you're going to have to get him and make a decision on that 5th-year option pretty quickly, which is very expensive for a quarterback and get 100% guaranteed. And he's, again, the injuries, he's just been injured left and right. I think multiple day 2 picks are possible, kind of the Sam Darnold trade when he went from the Jets to Carolina. But I could see a team with one of those late first rounders giving it. I don't know if I'd give like a top 20 pick where you're getting a first round graded caliber player up for that, but Fields has been playing really well this last week. He's also somebody who can have a big determinants of what happens with him down the stretch here. But he was hitting explosive plays. He was being utilized as a runner. The boot game action was really good in this as well. And I've been on a real explosive play kick, Scott, just kind of going into the data on that. And it's really crazy how deterministic explosive plays are to who wins and loses football games. And Justin Fields, because of his ability to run and the downfield hunting, is an explosive play machine. Needs to be better, obviously, in the down-to-down. The quick game is not great for him. But when you can run the ball, you can mitigate that some, and he is an explosive play guy. So I would really keep an eye on what the market is for him. You have the pieces in place right now to set a quarterback up, and he's already gone through a bit of, those reps, the live reps, the tough stuff early on. So I think he'd be a great fit. I know it's somebody that we both were big fans of in that first draft we covered together. Looking back, I probably did not, the release is a little bit long and that's some of the quick game issues. And I did not account for that enough in the mechanical side of things, but he's playing really good football and I'm excited to see what he does down the stretch here.
Red Swarm says, I disagree, Scott. I do not think that Justin Fields has performed since entering the NFL at a level that warrants a first-round pick. I agree with Nick. That seems contradictory because I think Nick agrees with me that it would take a first-round pick to pry Justin Fields away from the Chicago Bears. Or did you just say otherwise and I missed it?
I think multiple day 2 picks. I think it's the Sam Darnold one. That being said, like a team that's picking like 29 might be, I would not give up like 10 for Justin Fields, but if you're like late end of the first round, that's something I would consider there. So it's a tough position for the Falcons to do that.
I just know how quarterback crazy this league gets, and Justin Fields is still a pretty good quarterback. Get him out of Chicago, or when they change coaches in Chicago, looks like they're getting there. It looks like they're on the brink of this. But again, would I rather have reset with a quarterback like Caleb Williams or Drake May, and then extend my window for 5 years? And then I could trade, and they're in such a good spot because of that trade that they had last year. I mean, they're in such a great spot. They could literally come out of this thing with Marvin Harrison Jr. and 4 first-round draft picks. I mean, it's really going to be fun to watch that one.
But I think as the Falcons, just real quick on the Justin Fields conversation, because of that extra day 2 pick coming your way because of the Calvin Ridley deal, I would be totally fine trading a 2 this year and the Ridley pick for Fields. Maybe even throw in a future 3rd as well. But I don't know, unless the Falcons make the playoffs and you're picking late, I don't know if I'd be willing to part with that first right now. But same thing with Desmond Ridder. we still have 7 games left to see Fields play, and he looked pretty good in that game against Detroit. He looked really good against Washington. He looked really good against Denver. So there's been some games adding up this season for them. Their offensive line is starting to come together. It's finally been healthy. They still need work at center. And DJ Moore / Cole Kmet looks like a pretty good wide receiver, tight end duo there. So again, right now, I probably would not give up that first round pick, but it's trending that way. I do want to add one small caveat to this. I think it is since week 5, Detroit's defense has really gone in the pooper. It's kind of a trend worth monitoring here. I believe they're 31st in EPA per play since week 5. The offense has been humming, but Detroit's defense has kind of massively regressed. And Fields had a great game against them. So we'll see what it looks like against other teams, but worth monitoring. You guys looking for a quarterback?
The Falcons are in the market for a quarterback. That's that's without doubt. Whether they're able to, just like an edge rusher, the Falcons have been in market for 2 edge rushers for the last 3 years. The right opportunity hasn't presented itself to them. And again, I saw a comment in here. No more retreads. I forgot who it was. Let me see in here if I can do it. And I'm not calling you out on this negatively. I just wanted to use this as an example. I can't find it, but someone in the chat says no more retreads, and I'll end up finding it. Just draft a first-round quarterback. Well, the worst thing you can do is reach on a player, especially a quarterback. There's 2 guys in here that you jump over the moon for. After that, there's question marks. Mm-hmm. And the Falcons, if they're sitting there 10-12 and they reach for a quarterback, you could set your franchise back another 3 years. Mm-hmm. So don't just reach for. I don't want them to just draft a quarterback in the first round. I want them to get a first-round quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're going to need. So, whether or not they're able to do that, I don't, I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that in the draft. So would you be better off making a trade for Justin Fields if he's available? Let's get on the horn to Arizona Cardinals, see about Kyler Murray. And then we talked about Kirk Cousins. If you're looking for a 1-year bridge starter because the right young quarterback isn't available, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Kirk Cousins. You start looking at all those EPA charts and efficiency charts and all these type of things, and Kirk Cousins is way up here in the top right. Desmond Ritter's way down here in the bottom left. You don't think he'd make a difference? This is an 8-2 team with Kirk Cousins this year. Yeah, people are complaining. I've seen, well, I guess we just cap our ceiling in the second round of the playoffs, and that'd be it. I'm like, we haven't been in the playoffs in 7 years. What are you snobs talking about? Where do you get the gall to flip your nose up winning a playoff game? Yeah. There haven't been many of those in the history of this franchise.
And I think it's also worth emphasizing that this isn't just a purely we're done with him Justin Fields situation. If Carolina was picking, let's say the Bears ended up with the 3rd and 4th pick in the draft, or the 4th and 5th pick in the draft, they're not moving up for Drake May or Caleb Williams because they have Kirk Cousins, or they have Justin Fields, who I think they're still excited about overall. I mean, you can see the talent; it's still very much there, but it's the situation of resetting the contract, which is a big deal for the quarterback, and getting a quarterback that doesn't have any scar. I guess Caleb Williams actually probably does have some scar tissue from USC, but anyway, doesn't have some of the stuff from the league so far, and also probably somebody you can reset with a new coaching staff, which I think is important. Not somebody who's already here, but a coach who's involved in the process to bring in that new quarterback. So this is not a dump off quarterback. He's still talented and people will want him, which is why you come back to that potential first round pick there. I'll wait and see still, but
I think possible. If he's moved, I think they get a first rounder for him, but
definitely possible,
but we will see. We may never know the way it works out. Anonymous reviewer coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. And one of the things why do you think the Falcons overachieved with such a threadbare roster the last 2 seasons? 1 was penalties. 2 was turnovers. They limited both. 3 was injuries. They were rather, relatively injury lucky, so to speak. But this one, an honest reviewer says the year of the injuries, Caleb Huntley's out for the season. Caleb Huntley probably wouldn't have made this team, and at best would have been a practice squad guy. So I'm not too worried about this one. Avery Williams is a bigger miss than anybody ever realizes. When you start looking at special teams play and you look down and see worst punt returns in the NFL are now the Atlanta Falcons when they had the best return man, that's a big deal. It's It's not quite a turnover a game because, he's getting maybe 25 returns, a return and a half, but we're talking that's like having an extra personal foul. 15 to 20, 25 yards a game. That's almost 10% of your offense that you're losing there. And field position. And not only that, Nick, you're a punting guy. The decision-making on when to field and when not to field the ball is hidden yardage that doesn't even show up in the return game that has been killing the Atlanta Falcons in special teams.
Yeah, special teams has been poor on the Falcons. It's something that drives me nuts because I've seen the value of it now watching the Broncos this year, but watching Iowa the last, 6 years, the only reason they win half their games is because the special teams and the hidden yardage. So it has been very frustrating. And you are correct. Talking about losing Avery. I mean, he's been one of the best special teams players in football. That was what a great 5th round pick. I believe it was 5th or 6th.
I think the Falcons had 3. There were 3 5th round picks in there, and he was one of them.
He was somebody that was on almost every single one of my mock drafts to the Broncos when that happened because I loved the special teams ability.
And he was a Bronco, Boise State Broncos.
Yes,
it just made
Boise
sense.
State. Yeah,
Orange
I
and
know.
blue.
Too bad. But no, he's been a great player and a big miss for you guys this season, no doubt.
I'm talking about losing Grady, losing Troy Anderson early, Kyle Pitts lingering injury, Cordero Patterson with a lingering injury, and he hasn't been really an asset to this team. Cordero, if you think about, okay, I'm going to take Cordero Patterson out of this offense, how do you win 7 games the last 2 years? Cordero Patterson's a big reason why. If Cordero Patterson wasn't on the team playing like he's played the last 2 seasons, this might be a 3-win team instead of a 7-win team. So that's been a big loss. And then D. Alford's lingering. He's played pretty well. But yeah, there's been some sneaky injuries in there that people don't necessarily talk about. And one of them in there is Avery. It's Avery Williams. Because again, I mentioned, let's say you're averaging 350 yards of offense. And I said, okay, 16 yards, that's more like 5%. Okay, that's 5% of your offensive total in field position. How many times are we watching guys field the ball on the 3 and get tackled? Okay, if that bounces in the end zone, that's 25 yards of field position. There's 8% of your total offense for the day right there. Man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. We talk about fine margins, say, oh, yeah, I can increase your output by 10%. I increase your output by 10% in the NFL. I'm going from 4 wins to 10 wins.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm looking everywhere for this data point, Scott. I've been hammering people who make these dashboards to include it in one of these ones. But a really key metric, I know in college football for wins and losses, and it's further down the line of what happens in a football game, but it's still a key metric, is that average starting field position. It's crazy how often that ends up being wins the game. It should be up there with like turnovers and stuff, but
I would say that correlates well. I'd like to see that on a chart with 3 and outs.
Yes, 3 and outs, big. It's a big one for winning as well. Obviously, it is a little down the line because it combines 2 of the most important things: special teams and turnovers. If you are good in those 2 areas, typically you have close to the best average starting field position. And you talked about, 25-yard difference. Well, now you're starting on the 30, 35, some drives starting in enemy territory. I mean, that's huge, especially in today's
subtle,
game.
But we talk about it all the time. Let's say you're pinned back into your 5 and you get a couple first downs out of there. And all of a sudden you're punting from the 35 instead of the 5. You're like, oh, well, at least they flipped the field. And that's almost as good as a score.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the other team getting the ball at the 50, they're getting the ball inside their 20. That's huge. That's why I say the 3 and outs. I'd like to see how that correlates. It was a couple weeks ago. Oh, the Falcons starting field position has just been terrible. It's been terrible. They don't have any first downs.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to get your way out of there to flip the field. And if you're just going 3 and out every time, of course you're going to have bad field position when you're starting at the 10 and punting from the 12 3 straight times. So appreciate you, anonymous reviewer. Thank you for coming in with the support, my friend. Brandon Swank comes in. We're going to move on from the Justin Fields talk. But yes, the Atlanta Falcons should be interested in Justin Fields. Will they be, and how interested? I don't know. But the Atlanta Falcons are in the market for a quarterback in 2024. Could end up being Ritter again. We'll see. But he needs competition. He needs legit competition, whether it comes in with a veteran or a draft choice. The Falcons are in the market for a quarterback. Pretty good player got waived yesterday. He says, is our chances with Ritter high or low to make the playoffs? It's so helter-skelter, man. Ask me on Monday after they play the Saints. Because they'll be in first place. They beat the Saints at home with the divisional tiebreakers. And with the Colts' big release of Shaq Leonard, do the Falcons try and grab him? Nick, what are your thoughts on the latter?
Darius Leonard, for me, would have to pass through waivers
He
completely
goes by
first.
Shaq now.
Shaq. Excuse me.
Been
Yes,
2 years.
I just can't remember. I thought he was Shaq and then went to Darius.
He was Darius, and now he's Shaq.
Okay. Leonard has been very injured and a backup here for the Colts for a number of years and has a massive contract. He would have to pass through waivers and come in on a pretty cheap contract. I don't think anybody's going to pick him up on the deal that he is, so I would expect him to pass.
They wouldn't be on the hook for that. It's not guaranteed money. They would be liable for the $6 million for the rest of this season, and then they could cut him after this season and not be liable for anything. So it would be a $6 million investment.
Yes, that's still at this point,
which is still a good bit of money for the final third of the season.
Yes, exactly. So I think he still will probably pass through waivers at the end. I don't know. I guess we could see a team like the Cowboys at the very bottom who have been missing linebackers maybe make that move, especially with Leighton Vander Esch's injury. But for the Falcons, if he passes through waivers, I don't think there's an issue approaching him. But I don't know if that's a move that really moves the needle so much for where the Falcons are at right now. I mean, I think Landman's been playing solid football overall. Ellis has been fine. I mean, I'm not coming away from these games like, oh my God, the linebackers are horrible. What are we going to do on the Falcons? That's not been my takeaway. I think the run defense in the front seven has been fine. And you can still hunt for talent, no doubt, but that's why I'd be still, maybe making a call if he does pass through waivers, but it wouldn't be a priority for me.
The Falcons would have the financial flexibility to put a claim on him and sign him. But I think, one, they'd be better off taking that $6 million and rolling it into next year's cap and then using it on free agency next year. Two, as Nick said, he is an inside linebacker who's a really good one, but that's not what the Falcons, was a really good one who, could be considered. He's been battling some pretty scary injuries like back. That's scary, a back injury. And three, if I let him pass through waivers, he's not signing with the Atlanta Falcons. It'll be up to him then. He's a free agent. A free agent at this stage of the season isn't signing with a 4-6 team that's underachieving massively. That's just the way it works. He's going to go look at a team. Like I said, talk to me again on Monday. Hey, we're in first place. We could really use you. Okay, maybe the narrative changes a little bit, but these guys don't sign with teams playing like the Falcons. They go and sign with teams that aren't looking at a top 12 draft pick right now. They look at ones that are pretty much locks for the playoffs. Thomas asked, good morning. If Arthur Smith stays next year, do you think he gets reined in and we get a legitimate offensive coordinator to call plays? It wouldn't surprise me a bit if you can afford to sacrifice your coordinators one time, usually. And I wouldn't be surprised if a change was made for Dave Ragone. It's not Dave Ragone's fault. He'd be scapegoated on this thing. But again, what are you doing here? He's a quarterback's coach, so he does work with those guys on a day-to-day basis. But it wouldn't totally surprise me to see an offensive coordinator brought in and maybe turn over play calling duties. I might be more surprised than not, though, if Arthur Smith and his ego went that direction. So I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it's probable? No.
Yeah, and just a English thing. Oh, never mind. We're good. I thought it said resigned, re-signed. But yeah, no, Arthur Smith could just totally give up play calling duties this season. He's going to go down swinging this year, though, and he's still got 7 games. So we'll see how it plays out here with a very easy schedule for the Falcons down the stretch relative to other teams. And yeah, here's Jason B saying, it
was Jason. I was looking higher up in there. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, he says, just drafted first round quarterback. I don't want any retreads. The issue with this year's class, and we still got games to go. We'll see, but it does seem like there are 2 quarterbacks that are going to be first round grades. And then after that, you're going to have day 2 grades who are going to be elevated because it's the quarterback position. Would keep an eye on Bo Nix still. Jaden Daniels, I've seen his comments in here. He's definitely somebody that a lot of fun, a lot of explosive plays on there. That's what it's about. It's really hard to watch him for me, Scott, because I feel like he's just going to get snapped in half every time I watch him because he's so rail thin. And then also you do want to keep an eye on Carson Beck as well. We had that conversation, I think, last Friday, and I can't believe I didn't bring up Carson Beck. I haven't watched too much Georgia, honestly, this season because they feel inevitable still. But I'll have to watch them come the playoffs anyway. But no, yeah, Carson Beck is somebody who's really started to figure out as well, and really a good distributor of the football. So Daniels, Bo Nix, Jaden, and Carson Beck, names to keep an eye on. One of those guys I think will probably end up being quarterback 3. And I see Ryan Adonis talking a lot of Cam Ward. I like Cam Ward coming into the season.
Is that
to
Utah?
Be honest.
No, that's Cam Rising.
Cam Ward is from Washington State. He transferred there 2 years ago from Incarnate Word. I remember him playing that, Texas, whatever division that is. And yeah, Cam Ward, I thought he was maybe taking some steps forward this year, but then he regressed back in a big way. I don't know. I mean, maybe a day 3 kind of pick on him, but I'm not over the moon with his ability. He's somebody that, if you're talking day 3 though, possible. Honestly, some guys that I'd maybe keep a little bit more of an eye on for this Falcons team. If you're talking day 3 quarterbacks, Michael Pratt is somebody who really, really interesting from Tulane. I think he'll probably be down at the Senior Bowl. I've been impressed with him. We'll see what happens with Michael Penix Jr. He might be a late day 2, early day 3 kind of guy. Also, maybe it's just because I love the Giants out here at quarterback, but it'd be kind of fun to see what KJ Jefferson can do. Again, we're talking day 3 picks. Guy's not likely to hit, but I think Arkansas has been disheveled, and KJ is just a unique hoss in the pocket. So again, day 3, it's a lottery pick, but he has something that is interesting, and that is the size to arm talent.
Some Jaden Daniels talking here, and I'll tell you what, y'all, if the Falcons are in the 8 to 12 range again, I did a mock draft. Someone else just tagged me in their mock draft. We both got the same guy at number 8 using 2 different systems. He was on like PFN. I was on PFF. Do you know who that was, Nick? We both got the same guy.
At 8 overall?
At 8.
Man, you're putting.
Who would you think would be the least likely for me to draft in that spot?
Probably a wide receiver. Probably
Brock Bowers.
Tight end.
But he fell to 8. I'm like, dude, I can't pass Brock Bowers at 8.
No,
and then we both took quarterbacks in the second round spot because there will be some pretty good quarterbacks available on early day 2. Mm-hmm. Where you get those guys. Jaden Daniels. There's a lot of talk for here in this. And again, someone else came in. It may have been anonymous from Uber right here. Says the Falcons are going to grab an edge in the first next year. Man, if he's not there, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Falcons have had top 4-8-8 have been the last 3 picks. And, Micah Parsons is a hindsight pick. There wasn't really anybody talking about taking Micah Parsons at 4 at the time. It was other guys that they were. So I'm not counting him because, again, overall, if you were doing a redraft, Micah Parsons probably goes number 2 behind Trevor Lawrence. Quarterback still gets the nod. It's just kind of the way it is. Made a Pro Bowl in his second year. He's young. He's a quarterback. He's still going number 1 overall. Micah Parsons goes number 2, but nobody was talking about Micah Parsons. So I don't count him. So at 4-8-8, there just wasn't that edge that was a no doubt that this is a guy you have to go. And I'm not sure there's going to be one at 8 again this year either. Is the problem, Nick?
Yeah. There are 4 guys that are worth keeping an eye on, and because the edge spot we have historical data to show how important the testing is for that spot specifically. So if somebody comes out and tests like a freak after having good tape, I could see them being elevated. I don't see any true blue chipper defensive linemen. That's on the interior and edge. But keep an eye on Chop Robinson from Penn State, probably the most explosive edge rusher in this class as far as the burst goes. Leatu Latu from UCLA is probably your more classic 4-3 guy. He's big, but man, some of his, I think I sent you a video of him, Scott, a couple weeks ago, and you said, I'm going to share this with my son to show like this is how you use your hands to win football games. He's really refined and big and strong. He has a back injury that caused him to medically retire from Washington and then transfer to UCLA. So that is going to be the key for him coming out of the combine. We have Jared Verse, who's kind of taken a little bit of a hit, but there's a lot of talk that the Falcons loved him last year. Well, he's still out there at Florida State having a good year. Not spectacular, but very good. And then you have Dallas Turner at Alabama as well, who has some immense talent. Not Will Anderson, but very talented guy. So there are edge rushers. I don't know if any of them are worth top 10 picks per se, but I do think all of them will go in the first round, barring something medically or background check wise coming up.
Jay Black comes in. He's on the Ritter bandwagon. He says, Ritter's our quarterback of the future, people. Why start over with a new draft quarterback, putting us back 2 years? The corporate right now mentality is killing the NFL quarterback situations. Players do not come out of college ready to play. It's very rare. Take the time to develop players. The problem with that, Jay Black, with that type of thought process is you're making an assumption that with enough time, every player will reach the same spot. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
Ritter may never develop into the right guy. And then you've put yourself back the time that you spent on Ritter and the time that you have to then go find another quarterback. So I'm okay with this, with your thought process. I just don't want it to be spoken as fact that with enough time, Ritter will develop into the guy. You just have to be patient. That's not a fact. That's a variable, and it's a gamble, and it's a risk. It's a risk right now. The Falcons are losing.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith, and it's not even the corporate right now mentality. It's the way it is. Arthur Smith, if he is here next year, that will be it. He's on thin ice as it is. He can't afford to develop a quarterback in his 4th season. The corporate right now mentality, say what you want to, but I thought about going to the Falcons game. I was like, I don't want to spend $500. As fans, you demand a return on your investment on what it costs. So say what you want, but there's no guarantee that Ritter is going to be the Atlanta Falcons quarterback of the future, no matter how much time you develop him. And that's why you need to have the competition. Like I said, the Atlanta Falcons are in the quarterback market regardless of Desmond Ritter, because he has not shown enough to make you think he's the guy for the next 10 years, Nick.
And I don't want to say this is going to head down the Drew Lock pathway for the Falcons here, but I do see a lot of similarities in terms of where the team is at and how things are lining up and the play of Ritter. Day 2 pick, which really is a lottery pick on the quarterback, given what we know historically about the draft success rate for the position. And you have a coach who, if he is back, he's coaching for his life. Well, what do? You trade a 6th-round pick for a veteran, and the coach is going to go with the guy that they know the best and feel the safest with. It feels like a Teddy Bridgewater being the Ryan Tannehill being the Teddy Bridgewater for you guys, as Teddy was the guy for the Broncos in that one, and then it's not good enough in the end, and you lose. So that's the one that I would be worried about. You cannot be. I think that's just like playing it way too soft on that. I mean, you might as well start trying to sell assets that you don't see here long term in that situation. But I do worry that might be the pathway. If Ritter's a really legitimate chance that you cannot bring only him in here, and what does that competition look like for him? It's probably somebody like a Ryan Tannehill, where it is a legit competition, and I think you are very capped in your ability. I would not advocate for that, but that just seems like a likely, probable pathway if you do go that way.
Jason B asks, so signing Cousins or trading for Fields won't set you back and get everyone fired. Signing Kirk Cousins, again, going into this year, this team's at worst 8-2 with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. No, it buys you another year of, I can afford to. Okay, Cousins gets hurt, we're not going to bring him back. Let's say I'm in the Minnesota Vikings situation right now, where they had a huge year last year with Kirk Cousins. This year he gets hurt. Let's say Josh Dobbs comes in and stinks, and they were off to a bad start this year. And let's say that just continued. Well, that season that he had last year will buy him enough goodwill to get him through this bad season. Arthur Smith can't afford another bad one. Now, there's no guarantee, but I like my chances with Kirk Cousins as far as winning now goes, better than Desmond Ritter and better than a rookie quarterback. I don't think that's really going out on a limb. And yeah, there's talking here real quick, Nick. There's talking here about Shaq Leonard, and he'd be a good addition to this team. But if he clears waivers, I'll say it again, he ain't signing with the Atlanta Falcons. He's a free agent. It's his choice. It's not just, we should sign him. It's not up to you. It's up to him.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a draw to Atlanta for sure. I mean, maybe that's something, but we'll see. And I see Smart right in here saying, great show, guys. Let's never try to predict who the Falcons are going to draft. They really don't do what makes sense. So at the 9th pick, Atlanta selects Jake Fry from Iowa Tech, Loa Tech. I will say, Smart right, not to pat myself on the back too hard, but if you go to the Friday morning show before day 2 of the draft last year, we were talking and Scott's like, oh, who do you think the Falcons will pick, Nick? I'm like, oh, I think Matthew Bergeron would make a lot of sense. And then maybe with the 3rd round pick, maybe somebody like a Zach Harrison.
Yeah, we were on the right page because I think, what's Steven Ruiz? What's his name? I've already forgotten. TCU guard?
Steve Avila.
Yeah, Steve Avila. He went about 4 picks before. So that was my pick, but he wasn't there. And then Nick was like, I like Matthew Bergeron here. So
and then I said Zach Harrison.
And then Zach Harrison was the one, nailed that one.
Yeah, he's not look great, but he's a profile that made sense for your defense. So again, you never do know because you're going against, you don't have all the information, and all these other teams are going to take guys too. But sometimes things line up and you kind of get tendencies and player fits that make sense, guys. So it's fun.
And I think it was Red Swarm asked me, so you must really like Justin Fields. I did really like Justin Fields coming out. I thought he was number 2 overall. Would I want to trade a top 5 pick for him now? No, I wouldn't. Not all first round draft picks are created equal. I did really like him coming out. And I'm not willing to write him off as a bust based on what has happened in Chicago. I still see enough good things to think, hey, the guy that we really liked is still there. He's just been stuck in a bad situation. And there was a question in here. Hell, it may have been from let them tell. Why don't you tell them what you do? They asked. Here it is. C Double comes in. C Double, good to see you, Nick. You're a smart man. That what you should do. By the way, here I read that initially as what do you do? Why don't you tell him? Nick is a smart man. What do you do for a living, Nick? Besides have fun with us?
I don't know about that smart. I work in vaccine trials. I do epidemiologist. So I do a lot of data analysis and stuff and number crunching for clinical trials on the vaccine side of things, mostly HIV vaccines, but also tuberculosis, malaria, the sick bug. I don't know if I don't want to be demonetized.
I don't care. He does some of that. So Nick's a scientist and works in labs and does all that stuff. Nick is a smart guy. He is a smart guy. So it's been a lot of fun getting to know Nick over the course of the last 3 years that he and I have been working together.
You're going to make me blush. Feel red in my face. Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Ryan Dunn coming in real quick with the super chat. Thank you for the support, my friend. Saw you in here nice and early and been sticking with us the whole show. So I hope you're enjoying the show. We've been talking building the Falcons for about 40 minutes, which we tend to do when you're 4-6. So one of the things we wanted to talk about was the game coming up. Oh, yeah. Here come the Saints. Now, I did a Saints podcast last night with, I think there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There was like 6 of us. I was only representative of the Atlanta Falcons on that side of things. So I let them take their digs. It's their show. But I feel like both of these teams are in very similar situations in that both teams feel that their coaching staff and teams are underachieving. Both teams are unhappy with the direction of the team. Both teams are unhappy with the administration. And neither team may come out of this feeling all that much better, even if they win. So that was my question to them. I was like, I got a question for the Houdat Nation and for Falcons fans. I've posed this question before. Even if you win this game, let's say the Falcons eke out a win against the Saints at home and move to 5-6 and into first place in the NFC South, does that really change your feeling of the direction of this team and your thoughts about Arthur Smith and this regime? My answer was probably no.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if they come out and it really depends on Ritter, right? For me, a lot of it is if Ritter looks commanding the offense and he needed that time to, decompress, and he's been off now for 3 weeks and the offense looks efficient. They're figuring out how to maximize 8th overall pick and Bijan Robinson, which has been, a little hit or miss here. I would feel a little different about it going forward because this Saints team, while they are Super Bowl pretenders, I wouldn't say they are playoff pretenders by any means. Now, their offense is, you look at any of the efficiency charts, they are stuck right in the middle. They're 18, but like teams 15 through 19 are just like right there in the middle of the X and Y axis. But this Saints defense is for real, Scott. They are 6 overall in EPA per play this year. They are 3rd in success rate. So this is not a team that is just living off of red zone and turnovers. It is hard to get first downs on them with a success rate like that. And they are 2nd in the NFL in EPA against the rush. So Dennis Allen still has this defense playing at a really high level. They're much better in a 4-2-5 base with a nickel with Alontae Taylor out there, but it's a good division overall and one that it's It's going to be interesting to see how you match up because this is a Falcons team that still wants to run the football. I think they are 32nd in the NFL on pass rate over expected, which means they run the ball when other teams pass it more than anybody else in the league. This is a Saints team that's really good at taking the run away. So tough matchup. I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit of a rock fight. And this is a solid team, a good measuring stick for the Falcons. If you win this game, you should be the team that wins the NFC South.
Yeah, you win again, and Jason says, and Ryan Adonis says, winning the division would be a huge improvement over the last 8 and 9 years. The thing is 8 and 9 could win it, and it won it last year. You were 7 and 10 last year. I don't see that as a huge improvement. I see that as a marginal improvement. I feel like it just happened to be your turn, but 8 and 9 for me. Probably Arthur Smith comes back, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy with 8 and 9, not with this team, not with this schedule. But that said, this might be what it takes. You could sweep the division and finish 8 and 9. 6 of your wins could be against the NFC South. 6-0 against the NFC South, 2 and 9 against the rest of the NFL. That doesn't quite sit well with me, y'all. Not with this schedule. Not with I've gone through the quarterbacks that they've played, and there's like 15 career starts on the entire roster. Now against the Saints, Derek Carr is a little bit of a question mark. Could be Jameis Winston that comes in, which, Jameis Winston has his detractors, but the man has about 107 quarterback rating against the Atlanta Falcons, by far his highest rating against any team in the NFL, higher than the career marks of Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning. To say this guy is better than prime Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes when he plays the Atlanta Falcons is not hyperbole. It's actually true. I just soon see Derek Carr than Jameis Winston out there, y'all.
Yeah, it's Derek Carr's. They're both either way. I mean, both probably better quarterbacks than what the Falcons have, but the Falcons do have better weaponry, so it should be a good game. And it's one of those ones that, hey, maybe you had the bye week. You do have coming off that bye. I think the Saints are as well, though. But that's something that should make a big difference, and hopefully you can win that hidden yardage battle and figure out some ways to get the run game going and some easy passes for Ritter, because the 3rd and longs, I think, are going to be probably consistent in this game, given the success rate and the EPA numbers for the Saints defense. So it'll be a tough one. No doubt. This is a Saints team and defense that plays really good football. Rusty Moore coming in, $5. God bless you, Rusty, man. You guys are killing it today with the super chats. We really appreciate that. Helps keep these shows going. I mean, it really does. Especially the baby coming. We got to be making some money to waking up in the morning. But we got Rusty coming in saying Falcons remind you of the family member who is something that gets clean. Somebody who uses drugs that gets clean. Promises you every year they're going to stay clean and relapses May 2024. I think you probably already won too many games to do that May 2024 trade. And are you wanting to trade, 2 or 3 first round picks to move up for May? I mean, we'll see where you end up with that pick, but that's going to be very expensive. You want to talk about risk, swinging and missing on a quarterback after you trade up for them, points towards the Carolina Panthers. That can be not that Bryce Young's a total miss yet, but my God, that's such a terrible move in hindsight. But yeah, it's tough.
I've referred to the Falcons as Lucy with the football. She places it down. Here it is. The Falcons are coming back. Yank. There goes Charlie Brown every single time. But the heart wants what the heart wants. And when you start seeing glimpses of improvement, you're like, here we go. I mean, do you remember the mood of this team, this podcast, this group 4 weeks ago, coming out of the Tampa Bay game at 3 and what was it? 3 and that was the last win. So it was 4-3 at the time, going on the road and being a divisional opponent, handily, I might add. It was, the score was probably close, and there's probably a bunch of turnovers, but it was, like 2-1 in yardage and all kinds of stuff. They dominated that game. Then they lose 3 straight against Will Levis, making his debut, against Kyler Murray, making his debut, coming off a knee injury, against, I don't even remember the guy who started for the Minnesota Vikings, because they brought in Josh Dobbs, who hopped off the MARTA in the first quarter and walked into the stadium and went in and ran plays. To lose those 3 games. I'm not just making this up. I'm not just saying this because I'm a sports media person. I'm trying to get clicks. This literally is the easiest schedule the Atlanta Falcons may ever ever face in the history of their existence. And they're 4-6. It angers me that there's such a wasted opportunity. Nick, what makes me mad? Waste. This is a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, the government spending, all this. Now, we're taking a turn here now. But yeah, no, it is frustrating that this is a year that everything's set up. I mean, you finally have the cap off. That was one of the big reasons that we said all offseason, Scott's like, yeah, everything sets up really nicely, but like Ritter, we just don't know. And if he's not good, you're not going to be good. And so far, he's not been terrible, but like the boneheaded decisions from time to time in the fumbles.
We said he can't do.
Yeah.
He's also can't turn the ball over. That's basically it.
Yep. I mean, look what the Broncos have been doing here as of late. Russell Wilson, in the fourth quarter, he's made some big plays, but really the key has been anything but fumbles. If run, pass, punt. If it's not a fumble, we're going to be okay. And with the Falcons, with how easy their schedule is and defense turned around and everything, that would be okay too. But the turnovers have just been mind-blowing. I think that Falcons at Buccaneers game was like the most EPA lost by a quarterback due to fumbles in like the last 20 years or something. Granted, like 2 of them were on the 1-yard line, hence why the EPA is terrible when you fumble and lose it. But yeah, it's a don't turn the damn ball over and you have a chance. Bucks Rays Bolt says, as a Bucks fans really care who wins the South, Bucks suck.
He's Bucks Ray Bolts fan. He's ready for the draft. And the thing is while we're talking Saints and Falcons, Tampa Bay could sneak right in there. And just again, it was one of my favorite things last year was there was a who's going to win the South, and one of the arguments from the Panthers guy who answered was they were 1 game out of winning the division last year. Yeah, so were the Saints and Falcons. The division was 8-9, was what won it. Everybody was 7-10. Yeah, we'll see. Tampa Bay is just kind of hanging around. The Saints, the Falcons. Nobody wants to win it. It's just going to be who's left standing at the end, who screws up the least and is still standing. And it's going to come down to the divisional games because nobody's winning the out-of-division games.
Will be fun. Did want to give a shout-out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looks like you guys hit really well in the first round of the draft last year. Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle from Pitt, has been playing really good football for them. Now, granted, he's, teeny tiny for a defensive tackle. I just absolutely love the fact that Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea are on the same team and play the same position. I'm using quotes for those at home listening. Because Vita Vea is like, 350 pounds and Cansey's like pushing 280, 285. But Vea and Cansey have been awesome to watch on that Tampa Bay team. So got some pieces there. And we also got Chris Walker coming in. I'll let Scott get a drink here. So our head coach acts like an idiot and can't capitalize on a very favorable schedule. Goes from overachiever to underachiever and underperforming. That's the NFL, right? Things can change quickly. And one of the most detrimental things can be expectation. You came in this season for the first time with expectation of performing well, and now you're underwhelming. It's not the feel-good story anymore. It's the, we better make the playoffs. Oh, this isn't what it's supposed to look like. Now we're angry. And not saying you shouldn't be angry. Don't twist that. This is a team that is underachieving compared to the talent.
Arthur Smith doesn't do himself any favors in the media with when he's under scrutiny. He just doesn't. And that stuff starts to pile on, and it makes a difference to ownership. Who's ultimately going to make the decision on this. Chris, thank you for being here. Steven Krause says, holy cow, how the hell did this bull get on my feed? Because we're awesome. That's why you must be looking at awesome stuff, and you just might not know it, but we're pretty awesome. So that's what it was. So it's good to have you, Steven. Welcome. You have any questions? Let us know.
And I did want to come back. There was a comment here from again, I don't want to spend too much time on the draft, but somebody made a comment about Soulful Sin said, here goes these Bulldog fans talking about drafting Carson Beck the same way Falcons Bulldog fans wanted Jake Fromm. Please stop trying to put Georgia players on the Falcons, especially quarterbacks. I will say I was a big Jake Fromm detractor at the time because the arm talent and the athleticism and the size were not there. Carson Beck is not the same. Don't fall to the old trick of they wear the same helmet, so therefore they produce the same players. Jake Fromm did not have it. Carson Beck has a very good arm, looks like a very smart quarterback, is significantly larger, and looks like a future NFL quarterback. Maybe not a blue chipper, so to speak, but he looks like somebody who can come in and be a very good quarterback. I would not put him in the Jake Fromm category. He is a totally different type of player.
Yeah, right now, where the Falcons are, based on the way things are stacking up, we could totally change our minds, but second round quarterback seems to be making the most sense. There's going to be a lot of guys there that are available that can play.
What about the trade back? I mean, you're dealing with an extra day 2 pick. You can get that 5th-year option if you want it. You can go up and get a guy. It could be possible you package, a 2 and a 3 to move up to pick 31 and get a guy there.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm just saying with their second pick.
Yes.
So however you want to do it with their second pick, and again, speaking of misses, I've called Calvin Ridley out twice for being what we saw of him in Atlanta. And following those 2 games, I mean, the 2 times I've done that, we're like, how do you have him this ranked at fantasy football? And how do you have him ranked this as a free agent? I did that at the start of the season. He goes for 7 catches, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I did it last week. He had 8 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. He's only got 4 touchdowns all year, man. So I'm going to keep calling Calvin Ridley out so that the Falcons can get that 3. Right now, it's going to be a 3rd-round pick based on playing time. And it would move up to a 2 if they re-sign him. Going into last week, there was no way they were going to re-sign him. Now, all of a sudden, it could still possibly happen. No way do the Jaguars re-sign Calvin Ridley. He stinks. All right, I just put it in lock for you. Just got us another 2nd-round pick for the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think Ridley's had issues being the X there. He needs to play off somebody and have a little bit more of the out routes and whatnot. Once you have somebody, I think, in Atlanta, for the Jags who can play that X, I think he'll be unlocked. So that's a team. They traded for him. They're gonna re-sign him. And I do appreciate Steven. Steven's not really talking crap about us, Scott. He's just not a football guy. So I appreciate.
He says he's not a sports fan. That's okay. I don't care for sports. That's okay. I didn't say you did. I said you must be looking at awesome stuff. And well, at least this guy's pretty awesome over here. So that's all it took. It's just other things. We have other interests too. We're not going to talk too much about them here. You want to talk cars? I like cars. This is your guy for Pokemon over here. So we have all those things.
If you want to come out to Washington and do a hike, hit me up. I'll tell you, I traveled. I think I put about 300 miles in this year, Scott, backpacking and hiking. So that's any questions out here, I can help you out with that.
Famous line, he stinks. That's my PG version of what I normally say, Ryan. So it gets worse. I think Brian said Cranky Scott is my favorite Scott. Oh, I'm cranky a lot of times. That's why I need these shows. They get me up a little bit. Every once in a while, I let my normal angry Scott out.
Curmudgeon. Get off my lawn.
The curmudgeon Scott. Yeah. Michael Thomas, another Falcons killer, out. I asked him yesterday because I haven't watched them enough. How big of a loss is this? As far as I know, I watched like one game of the Saints against the Colts, and that was a good game. And I haven't, I'm just looking at numbers. Okay. They're ranked this, they're doing this well. I've seen some highlights of Derek Carr, but I haven't really watched them. So I don't want to come in and say, oh yeah, Michael Thomas. And they were like, no. He's starting to play really well. He's been playing really well. This is a big loss. I'm like, okay, well, that starts to matter a little bit. David Onyemata, revenge game. Hopefully he's back. That's losing Grady and Onyemata is a huge loss for this team. If there's one place they can afford it where it wouldn't be totally devastating on the defense, it might be interior line. Huggins has done a job. They brought in Contavious Street. He's doing a job. They can run waves of bodies in there on the interior line to help make up for the disruption that Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata bring.
Replicated but not replaced, right? I think like losing Grady, it's not just because you have competent guys out there.
You're starting to realize how freaking good Grady Jarrett is.
I mean, I've loved Grady since his Clemson days. I was banging the table that time, and he's very good. They're just defensive tackles, I think, that bring a little bit more at this point. But
how much he means, how good he is, means how much he brings to this team and how much better they are with him. Kind of like an MVP versus, okay, this guy has the better stats, but this guy really means more to the team. Yeah, Grady Jarrett is the heartbeat of this Falcons team, frankly, franchise right now.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable and really sad to miss him. I'm glad to see him get some flowers this week too, Scott. I tried to help share the news too, but did you see the Jalen Carter dive, try to intercept the spike pass? And he's like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. I'm like, Grady Jarrett did this in 2017 versus the oh God, I do not remember who it was. It was called false start on the other team, so it didn't count, but he actually like dove under the legs of the center and caught the ball before the spike happened.
Grady
So
Jarrett's so good. Jalen Carter
yeah,
is Grady Jarrett at 6'4", 320 pounds.
he's more Chris Jones.
um,
Just the size and the fluidity. That's
yeah,
it. I mean, as soon as I saw him, like, this is Chris Jones. Like,
Red Swarm, I'll circling back, ask me about Justin Fields. For the record, in 2021, I wanted trade back. Justin Fields was my first choice if you were going to take that pick. Trade back was my third choice. Penny Sewell was my fourth choice. That's where I would have gone. The next year, I would have gone Kyle Hamilton in the 8th spot at safety. I know it's not a premium pick at safety. Neither is running back and tight end. Atlanta kid, Kyle Hamilton went to Marist. There was a big need for safety, as we found out when the Falcons spent $30 million on Jesse Bates, and could have been a face of the defense. So I wanted Kyle Hamilton. Last year, I wanted Jalen Carter. So my first round picks, as they were taken for this team and under this regime, would have been Justin Fields, Kyle Hamilton, Jalen Carter. So whether that makes the team better or not, I don't hide from that. I don't regrade and reassess and draft on hindsight. That's the history behind that one. Now, Taquan Graham, where's he been? He's been a bit of a ghost. Trying to get healthy, man. He was playing really well last year and then lost a year to a knee injury. And if it's probably been, I think he didn't get hurt in the Bears game, did he? Was that week 11? So it's been just about a full year since Taquan Graham did a knee. So he should be getting back close to 100% towards the back half of this season.
mm-hmm. I mean, it was probably everybody's different, right, for that, but he's one that should get the benefit of the doubt this season, and hopefully he'll be healthy next year for this team. But he was playing really good football last season before that injury, so you always hate to see that. But get healthy and kind of a soft redshirt year in 2023 for him. We got Zach Powers talking about Kyle Hamilton here. Yeah, Hamilton was a little bit of a dimebacker type for the Ravens last season. This year, he started to really emerge for them. One thing that did want to give a shout out to the main defensive coordinator that I said the Falcons should maybe hunt after, and Mike McDonald there. He's been doing unbelievable work for the Ravens and finding a Swiss Army knife who can do, I mean, because Kyle Hamilton's got borderline linebacker size out there. So the ability to rush him and do a bunch of different things with him have made them really fun. Scott, cover your ears, but I think the data says that the Ravens are the number one team in the NFL in simulated pressure use because they have so many different types of bodies on that defensive front that they can use. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, really great athletes too. So their ability to blitz
feels like
and
the
hide
Vikings
blitzers
would be up there just because of their scheme. They put 9 guys on the line and then guess what's going to happen. But they blitz so much that it's not fake blitzing.
Yeah, it's not the simulated where it's still, when it's simulated, it's 4 guys at the end, but who's coming and going, right? That's the big one. And you're not cheating, but you are using pass rushing or pass blocking rules against teams to free up guys. And they've been pretty awesome at that this season. So keep an eye out on Mike McDonald out there for Baltimore. I would be surprised if he was not a head coach next year.
Yeah, Red Swarm coming in with a super. He says, thanks for circling back, Scott. My pleasure. Again, I wanted to get back on that. I once had somebody ask me when I was doing recruiting rankings for a long time, who are you accountable to, Scott? I'm like, well, you. I'm accountable to you. I'm accountable to if I don't say anything on here that I wouldn't say to someone face to face. I expect to run into somebody and say, well, you didn't think I was going to be very good. Apologies. You were great. I don't say anything out of anger or meanness. Call it like I see it. Try and be honest. And I'm accountable to whoever I'm talking about and whoever I'm talking to. I'm accountable to guys like you. So thank you very much, Red Swarm. I appreciate you being here. We're at 65 minutes. Let's get out of here. Let's finish up with a prediction. The New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are 1-point favorites. And ESPN gives it almost a 60-40 chance of winning to the New Orleans Saints in Mercedes-Benz this weekend. How do you think this one plays out?
I think the team with the better quarterback in the end wins. So I think the Saints will probably get it done. They just match up so well defensively against what the Falcons want to do. And this is a Falcons team that I think is very emotionally unstable. I think that they need success early, and if things don't work out, I don't know if they have the internal fortitude to have the faith and continue to go out there. I don't know if they have the ability to grind like the Saints are going to make you grind in this game. So I think the Saints end up winning this game. I think it'll be ugly. I'm guessing something like 20-13 in the end. But I do think the Saints win. We'll see what happens with Ritter. I mean, he's the wild card here. He's been off for a bit. If he just cleans up those damn turnovers, you should be good enough to keep it close. And when that happens, coin flip games. But I do think that the Saints win this one, a really ugly one in the end, which is fine. I think ugly football is beautiful. Again, Iowa Hawkeye fan here. I don't
ugly win can certainly work. You want to ugly this one up. It's certainly not going to be a gunslinger unless Jameis Winston's playing and he comes in and starts playing like Jameis Winston against the Atlanta Falcons. But I went a little bit different route. I think I said 21-20 last night, and then I was like, well, that can't be right. Because you're not going to shut out Younghoe Koo. And then they joked like, well, the Falcons kicked 7 field goals. I'm like, bingo, there it was. I'm going with the home team on this one. I think that one makes a difference. I predicted at the beginning of the season a split for the Saints and Falcons. I'm kind of still there. And I would go with the home team coming off the bye. I know the Saints are coming off a bye too. The Falcons really needed this bye, really needed it. And we'll find out. One of the hallmarks of an Arthur Smith team is these guys have played hard. We'll find out if this team is still behind Arthur Smith on Sunday, and we'll know quickly. And if they're not, it's time to go because he's not a good enough schematic guy. He's not the brains of the outfit. He's more of a motivator, a man manager, et cetera, et cetera. And if that part of his resume goes away, then his seat's going to be on freaking fire. I think 19-17, something a little odd with a score in there. There's going to be a bunch of field goals. And I like the home team on this one, which is really bad news for the Atlanta Falcons that I just picked them to win. On that note, we're going to get out of here, y'all. It is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Want to say a special thank you to our Super Chat superstars today. That was Michael coming in hot, breaking the ice and kicking us off. Anonymous reviewer, appreciate you. Brian Dunn with the support as well. Rusty Moore Jr. and Red Swarm. Thanks to each and every one of you that helps keep the lights on. Appreciate you as a special shout out. If you haven't or can or don't feel like contributing financially, that's okay. We appreciate you being here. But do something nice and easy. Hit that like and share button. That helps us out a lot to help reach more Falcons fans and continue to grow this show, which has been on a very nice trajectory through the course of the season because of people like you. Nick, any last words before we get out of here for Thanksgiving?
Just everyone have a good one tomorrow. Enjoy all the football games. Stay safe. Have fun with your family. Thankful for all you guys coming in here. Thankful just, in general, everybody have health. I always like to say on the Broncos shows when I close out, choose compassion and kindness. But with Thanksgiving, holiday spirit, do just want to emphasize that as well. A lot of people, you don't know what they're going through in life. So step back. If you can be compassionate and just be kind, that's enough.
Yeah, that's always a good thought. I like hearing that from Nick. We do shows pretty much every day, 5 days a week, and I like hearing Nick say that at the end of all of our shows. Thank you for being here. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. Enjoy the football. Enjoy your family. And stay safe, everyone. We want to see you back here on Monday. We'll break down the Saints and the Falcons. Hopefully for Falcons fans, it is a victory Monday. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving. We appreciate you being here.